Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Illustration Department Podcast. My name is Giuseppe Castellano. In this podcast, I talk to folks in illustration, graphic design, publishing, animation, and other creative fields about their work, the lessons they've learned, and the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. In this episode, my guest is educator, author, and graphic medicine cartoonist, Kriota Willberg. It's hard to create when you have lateral epicondylitis, or thoracic outlet syndrome. As Kriota and I discuss, take a break or your body will break. Among other topics, Kriota shares why she felt the need to write Draw Stronger, self-care for cartoonists and other visual artists. We diagnose why artists, me included, don't take care of themselves. And Kriota shares how to care for your greatest drawing instrument, otherwise known as your body. I hope you enjoy our conversation. You're still at NYU, right?
Yeah, I'm at NYU, and I'm also teaching at Parsons School of Design now. So
Nice.
yeah, where of course
Right.
I always do self-care workshops.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all that.
Yeah.
This is sort of like a perfect timing type
Good.
of recording
Good.
because I'm just getting over a cold.
Ah, yeah.
And I know it's not physical, although it is. It's not carpal tunnel, but it still affected my creative work.
Yeah, I can imagine that for sure.
Out of commission for a couple of days, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm also chewing on a lozenge, which is like against podcast rules. I believe it was one of the commandments. Thou shalt not suck on a lozenge while recording a podcast.
Well, I suspect that very few people will actually notice that, so it's okay.
You'd be surprised. Some people might.
Right.
Some people
Well,
might.
other podcasters will notice it, but
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I annoy my wife when she listens to a podcast on her phone or whatever, and it's on speaker so everyone can hear what she's listening to. And I'll just be washing the dishes or something. And I'll hear a very clear edit.
Uh-huh.
And I'll just be sitting there minding my business, not saying anything. And I'll hear it and I'll go, oh, there's an edit. Did you hear that? My wife, Sarah's like, let me just listen to this, man. So I'm recovering from a cold.
Mm-hmm.
Knocked me out of commission. I wasn't able to work for a couple of days this week, which threw off my schedule with mentees. Being healthy, as if illustrators didn't have enough on their plate to have to think about, worry about, tend to. Being physically healthy. I mean, you can't do any of it unless you're physically able to.
That's pretty true, but people are more physically able to sometimes than they realize, even if it's a small amount.
Right. We're not talking about deadlifting 250 here. We're talking about, are you able to sit down and draw or paint or create or design or write for an extended period of time without hurting yourself?
Yes.
So Draw Stronger was published in 2018. Is that right?
Yes.
Where did the idea for it come from?
I was teaching comics back in 2012, and I also happened to be in a first semester class at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And I would see, all of my students were just hunched over their sketchbooks in such a way. They wouldn't, and so my inner clinician, because I had been a massage therapist, also specializing in treating orthopedic injuries, and even though massage therapists can't legally diagnose people, in my mind, my inner clinician was looking at all the students going, okay, there's lateral epicondylitis about to happen. There's thoracic outlet syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
There was just, I could just say, okay, another nerve impingement, lumbar nerve impingement, blah, blah, blah. I could just kind of keep going. Carpal tunnel syndrome, I could just keep seeing things. So before my class would be drawing, I started a physical warm-up for them. I also, have a certificate in essentially basic exercise prescription and fitness. So, I could just give them some physical warm-up before we would start drawing. And then I was also looking online for some resources for them, about ways to prevent their potential injuries. But The thing is that I couldn't find any sources that had a broad enough scope for me that would actually satisfy, say, one of my patients who'd had repetitive stress injury or whatever. So I ended up writing quite a large number of mini comics that I could also give to my students, and then ultimately I turned them over to Uncivilized Books, and they were happy enough to publish it for me.
Why them? Was there a connection there, or did you just find them? Were they doing the kinds of books that you wanted to publish? What was going on there? I noticed that, and honestly, I've been in this business for a long time. I've been talking about this field for a very long time, and when I was researching you, I saw Uncivilized Books, and I thought, who?
Tom Kaczynski essentially runs Uncivilized. And the thing is that Uncivilized is also very supportive of the comics community. So I get the impression that because I was creating material about injury prevention, that was also another supportive act for the comics community, which they also decided to publish. And unfortunately, also for artists and cartoonists, I don't really have that much competition, which is too bad for everybody, frankly.
What do you mean? Expand on that.
Well, if there was more material out there about injury prevention, like through a number of different approaches that people would actually really kind of emotionally sync with, I think that would be better for everybody in terms of stimulating self-care and potential injury prevention. But, I tried to do it by, even though I, create a relatively educational book, I also try to make some jokes. I add pathological humor in the book to try to just soften the blow. And, and it's I had a couple of physical therapists who I also know review the books, and they were actually pretty impressed with the book. So I'll let people understand that even though I'm not giving them direct medical information as like a treatment for their injury, since I'm not seeing their injury, I also have a chapter in the book that says, what should I see a doctor or not, essentially.
Is it like every single question and the answer is yes?
Well, yeah, mostly. Like if you're wondering whether or not you should see it, I would suspect you probably would. But there's a list of different things about the quality of pain, the duration of the injury, what it's inhibiting, things like that. And getting a diagnosis can be very important because sometimes people will have pain in a certain area, but the damage may not be directly where the pain is if it's a nerve impingement.
Oh, for sure.
So sometimes people think they have carpal tunnel syndrome because they'll have pain in their hands, but actually there may be an impingement of one of the nerves that goes down to their hands through their neck. And then, even if they do hand stretching and exercise, it's not going to help unless they do neck correction.
Right.
So getting the diagnosis can be very, very helpful because that will actually tell you, they can refer you to a physical therapist or whatever and help you find ways to treat your injury, which is really important.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's the saying? It's easier to prevent. Prevention is, what is it? Prevention is cheaper than treatment.
Yeah. Prevention is cheaper, and also just, when you develop acute symptoms, when you start to get a lot of pain or, you're feeling disabled or whatever, prevention is just easier not to get to that point, because once you get to a point where you can't draw, do your artwork or whatever, then not only is it physical issue, but it can also really be like mentally devastating and physically devastating, which is, really tough.
And then it snowballs a little bit. Then it becomes a financial issue as well. If you can't work, you can't pay the bills.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty bad pretty quickly.
Yeah. And also depending upon, what state people live in, how their health insurance is, all that kind of stuff can also be rather complicated.
Well, thankfully in this country, in the country you and I both live in, it's not a problem. Health insurance is totally not complicated, very simple, very affordable. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
I
laughing.
talked, yeah, I'm laughing only on the inside. I'm crying on the outside.
Right.
The other month, I would say a few months ago, I had numbness in my right drawing hand, my right hand, my index finger and ring finger. And of course, you know, the thing you're not supposed to do is go online immediately and go, what does this mean? And, you know, every hit was basically like, you're going to die in 3 hours. What it ended up being was inflammation of a nerve in my elbow.
Yeah.
I had tennis elbow, basically. And the reason I had that is because I spend 8 to 10 hours a day at my desk with my right elbow bent at a 90-degree angle the entire day, which is not natural or normal or healthy. So what I had to do was be really mindful of it. Like when I didn't need to use my right hand, or I could just use my left hand to talk to illustrators or type or whatever, fine. I would just keep my right arm down. And then when I'd sleep, I'd made sure, because that's the other thing too, is I would sleep and I bend my right arm underneath my head when I'm sleeping. So my right arm is just bent at 90 degrees, basically 20 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to numbness in my fingers, which led to Googling, what does this mean? Which led to very scary results, which of course led to like mild panic attacks on my part. Turns out it was just a little inflammation in the elbow. I needed to just maintain it, take care of it, be mindful of it. It went away on its own within a couple of weeks. It was no big deal.
It wasn't a cubital tunnel syndrome. I'm surprised.
Maybe I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't go to the doctor because I guess I should have.
Going to a doctor and getting a diagnosis, or going to a physical therapist and getting a diagnosis, will also the physical therapist can give you a very good indication of what types of exercises to do to treat the injury. I'm really sorry that you had that issue. And numbness always, of course, indicates some form of nerve impingement, and nerve pressure can either be from tight muscles or from bones pushing together, you know, in the vertebral column, or other bones like in the rest of your skeleton pushing on things too. But numbness, tingling, and sometimes shooting pain all can indicate nerve impingement. So
Right.
I'm really sorry you had that, because also actually nerves are a little bit more delicate than, you know, muscles or tendons or whatever. So.
Admittedly, it was self-diagnosis, so who knows what it was.
Yeah.
But it went away, thank goodness.
Right. And you said, I'm sorry, did you say lateral epicondylitis?
You said that. I don't even know how to pronounce that.
Okay, because I think it would be a cubital tunnel syndrome in a way, probably based on which fingers were numb. Like that might be an issue. But
pointer and ring, yeah. I mean, this was months ago. It went away after, you know, being very mindful of how bent my elbow was, and it hasn't come back since.
Yeah,
so.
Pointer and ring is interesting because they're like different impingements. It could be cubital tunnel, it could be different compressions. You know, it could be carpal tunnel. It could be like other areas. It's just
right.
But anyway, I shouldn't be even trying to approximate. And I've been retired from massage therapy for the last 5 or 6 years. So
I mean, let's move away from that, because I don't think you take my insurance. So I don't. You're not in my network, Kriota.
No, I'm sorry about that. I'm not.
Yeah,
but,
I know. It's too bad.
Yeah. But anything that indicates a nerve impingement really makes me encourage people to go get a diagnosis, either from a physical therapist or a physician.
I will promise you, Kriota, that if it happens again, toot sweet, I'm heading to the doctor right away.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, you know, with artists, your hands and your eyes and your entire body, really, but it's like you got to take care of your arms, your back, your neck, your eyes.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I knew I needed to do, wasn't really religious about it, did it a little bit, could have done it more, and probably am paying for it now, was spending 20 years in corporate publishing, sitting behind a desk, staring at a screen, and not doing the every 20 minutes or so getting up, looking long distance, taking a walk, coming back. And so, you know, my eyes aren't as good as they were. I am getting older, so maybe that's just it. But how would my eyes be now if I took better care of them across a 20-year window of staring at a screen?
Well, you know, it's so interesting that you're talking about 20 years when there's also this very common kind of routine for eye health called the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, you look 20 feet away for about 20 seconds, and that will let your eyes start to relax, and then you can look back at your screen. So if for 20 years you can do the 20-20-20 rule, that will be better.
Okay. I'll work on that for the next 20 years. And by that point, I will hopefully have been retired, I think.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I do want to mention that regardless of, if artists are working in different media and not digital media, or if they are working in digital media, the thing is that as technology keeps developing, people's bodies still remain the same and still react to chronic postures, whether it is over a sketchbook or over a Cintiq or whatever. So these kinds of, habits of self-care work regardless of what medium you're working in. And if you take a break from drawing on your iPad or your Cintiq to like playing on your phone, guess what? That's going to really just be very problematic because that's still going to extend. I mean, mentally it can help to give you a break, but physically that forward head syndrome also, and if you're also like individually moving your thumbs, that could also develop like a thumb tendonitis or what's called tenosynovitis, which can be somewhat problematic. So the thing is that I just want to point out to everybody, when I keep encouraging people to take breaks, and I practice what I preach because since I was also a massage therapist and working in exercise for a long time and being a professional dancer, I have 2 hip replacements now and arthritis literally from head to foot. So I'm usually drawing about 5 days a week for roughly 7 hours and each day, because right now I'm working on a graphic memoir. And so every time I'm doing that 7 hours a day of work, every hour or hour and a half, I'm standing away from the desk and I'm actually doing a physical routine of movements and stretches. And I also go ahead and look out the window because that'll guarantee I'm looking further than 20 feet away. So that will also help to relax my eyes.
Yeah, one thing that I do, I have meetings every day with illustrators and they last an hour and there are 15-minute breaks between each hour. So I'm not like perfect with this, but enough, I feel what I'll do is every that 15-minute window, I'll absolutely get out of my chair 100% of the time, walk into the kitchen at the very least to refill my coffee, or take a walk around my house. I'll go outside and just walk around my house. Takes 4 minutes. But I'll come back and have a little sunlight. I'll be clearly looking at long distances, a different light source, not at my screen. 10 minutes later, I get back down, prepare for the next meeting and so on. So I now do that.
Yeah, you can't see me, but I'm nodding my head in approval.
There it is. I feel like somehow I didn't expect this to happen, but I feel like I'm a little nervous. Like I need to get your approval that I'm actually I'm doing right by myself physically.
Yeah.
And I need you to tell me that I am. No, I'm kidding. So the other thing too, and this is for illustrators who are listening, like, okay, well, I have my studio is like in this like really tight space. I have all my stuff here, the simplest things like move your printer out of arm's length. Like if your printer is right there, move the printer to the other side of the room or to another room. So when you print something, you have to get up and go get the printout. Those like the littlest things like that, forcing you to, instead of going like, oh, it's time for me to stand up now, you just do it naturally because your printer, you can't reach your printer. Or put your materials, like your painting materials, put them over there. So while you're painting, you're like, oh, wait, where's my linseed oil? Oh, it's over there. Let me go walk over there and get it real fast. Just at least that little bit of movement will help. What I do when I paint is I stand and sit. Because if I stand for a decent amount of time, I'll get like a little bit of a cramp in my right shoulder right by where my neck and my shoulder meet.
Yeah.
So then I sit down
Yeah.
and paint that way for a little while, then stand back up. What we used to do when I was working at Penguin and before that Simon & Schuster is we would either buy these little platforms that we could use to elevate our screen so that we had to sit up straight to stare directly at the screen instead of looking down or up at it. And if we didn't have a platform that you get at like IKEA or whatever, I hate to say this, illustrators, but we would take directory of illustration and workbooks, those like really thick books that had illustration samples, and we would stack them underneath our monitors to lift the monitors up so that your eye is at the center of the screen when you are sitting up straight.
Yeah.
That was a good way of like maintaining posture while not having to consciously think about it all the time.
Yeah, ergonomically, that's sounding pretty good. And when I say good posture to people, I'm also clearing out that sometimes it's not just people's joints. Sometimes their bones might have an interesting shape that might help to misalign the joints. Like my shin bones actually curved, which makes me bow-legged from the knees down. I'm not going to talk too clinically, but the thing is that when I would take a yoga class or whatever, and someone would tell me to, even though my knee was extended, someone would say, straighten your knees. And it's like, nope, that's as straight as it is. But I would work my alignment with what could clinically be called my leg deformity to make sure that I had good posture with my legs and hips, because the thing is that regardless of anybody's body type, good posture means that you've picked a position that is going to put the least amount of strain on your body. So, you know, when we all talk about sitting up straight and trying not to like let your head be too hunched over, or like everyone's bending their upper back over something or shoving their shoulders forward, if people can find a way to like counter that posture that works for their body anyway, that's what we consider good posture for sure. Yeah. I also was thinking when you started to mention getting a little sore, sometimes having very good posture while we're, you know, working or doing some, you know, working on a project or even just on our laptops or working on something else, even if we're using good alignment and good posture, sometimes if you're just overworking a group of muscles, like without too much rest, you can start to get a little injury. So that's why I just keep saying, take a break, you know, do a little movement and stretching or whatever to just, you know, ease your body. And also, like, getting up to walk to the printer is also a good idea. When I walk to my printer, I jog in place on the way to my printer. And I'll also do a downward dog yoga position to, you know, strengthen and stretch my arms that are going over my head, because that's the opposite direction of what I'm doing when I'm drawing. So, you know, anyway. And also in terms of screen height, like elevating your screen is a good idea. If you're working with a standing desk, varying the posture is good, but if you're standing for longer than 2 hours, you can also like start to stress some of your tissues or whatever, or if you're not taking a break. So, and the thing is, with younger people, their bodies are a lot more resilient. You know, every once in a while, you'll find that someone's drawing excessively or making some other work excessively, either for school or just for publication or for another project, and then suddenly they're in pain and they can't meet their deadlines. So that's why I'm saying, even though you're not feeling like you're developing an injury because you're very young and in good shape, I'm going to suggest that you take the breaks anyway and, you know, do what you can.
Right. It's not cool to grind your body into the ground. We can tell that to the young folks.
Yeah.
You know, it's not hip to grind. You know, I think that's another thing too, mentally, on the mental side of things. There's a sense that, you know, you're not working hard unless you feel like you're working hard. It's like some sort of sense of pride. I sat at my desk for 10 hours today without a break, and like they're tweeting about it or posting about it, you know,
right.
as if it's some sort of thing to celebrate. Nope. you are definitely hurting yourself.
Well,
You're going to
also,
regret that.
yeah. Also, what I tell my students is that taking breaks requires discipline.
Yeah.
When you're so caught up in the work and you don't want to bother taking a break, it takes a lot of discipline to say, okay, it's been an hour and a half, 2 hours, or oh my gosh, it's 3 hours. I have got to take a break. You know, whether you want to or
Right.
not, it shows good discipline, and that means you're doing very good work.
And yeah, it's awesome. Like, good for you. You got into the flow and you stayed in that flow for hours at a time. Yeah, sign me up for that. But you also have to remember that you don't have like infinite lives. This isn't a video game. You have one character. Get hit hard once and it could screw up the game. The other thing that I did for a long time was cross my legs. I'd cross my left leg over my right leg. And I'm doing it literally right now. But now I know not to do it as much as I did when I worked in corporate publishing, because this is my standard sitting position, would be crossing my left over my right, leaning forward, hunching over my desk, my right arm with my stylus and my left hand over my keyboard every single day for 20 years. And what ended up happening once I went freelance, once I started working from home, moving around more, I took up yoga for mental health reasons. I could feel how different my left hip was compared to my right. As I was doing yoga positions, I could feel the asymmetry in my hips because of all of that crossing the left over the right. And so I've been spending, let's see, what year is this? Last 6 or 7 years doing yoga, trying to realign that and get the flexibility back, because the left leg was so inflexible compared to the right for that reason.
Well, yeah, also in the book, Draw Stronger, one thing I mention is that when some muscles or connective tissue are sitting in a slightly closed position, like if you're crossing your left leg over your right leg, then some of the rotators in the hip, some of the, thigh muscles, some of the calf muscles, if they're shortened, they'll actually continue to become shorter and shorter as opposed to the other side. So you have to do the corrective stretches and stuff like that. And, also doing full body forms of exercise, if it's healthy for you, that's a great idea. Yoga's really symmetrical, which is good. Pilates is symmetrical. And then other full body activities can also, be a lot of fun. That will, also just help you be a physically more comfortable drawer as well.
Running and then yoga is usually my morning routine.
Yeah. For me now, because of my double hip replacements, I can no longer do yoga, but I go to the gym. I do cardio either by working on an elliptical or just like walking on the treadmill, but I'll do those full body types of exercises, and then I'll do strength training, which is always, of course, bilateral, both sides. I have to do them equally, and then I'll stretch equally at the end. It's strengthening and stretching in a full body way, which can be really, really helpful, because then I'll go draw for, all day.
This podcast is produced by the Illustration Department, a global leader in online education for illustrators. Visit illustrationdept.com for offerings like mentorships and portfolio reviews, testimonials, our alumni showcase, our best-selling Substack, and more. That's illustrationdept.com. And now, back to our conversation. This all sounds great, stretch, take care of your eyes, take care of yourself, your circulatory system. I mean, literally everything is all connected. You can't be creative if you literally can't be creative. The problem, though, is not everyone's built the same. Some of us, through no fault of our own, through genetics, through whatever, are incapable. Not that they don't want to, they very much want to, but literally can't do yoga, do Pilates, or run, or swim.
Right.
So what do they do? What
Yeah.
can they do?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that if you have some kind of health condition that will make certain practices very painful or make your health conditions even worse, the good thing is to, again, go see a doctor and ask them what types of exercise are going to be best for you. I have arthritis literally all over my body. I have my 2 hip replacements. For a long time, I practiced yoga for about 14 years, but now I can't do yoga at all. And I used to be a dancer, and I can't dance at all. But if I do strength training, I can also adapt myself with my hip replacements. Now I brag to my surgeons that I can do a squat or a deadlift with 45 pounds, which is quite amazing. But,
Nice.
sometimes, when you have different issues, it's really important to, again, talk to a healthcare practitioner to find out what kind of exercise will work best for you, I think. Or if certain types of exercise cause pain, then that's not a good idea, frankly. Because sometimes when people have an injury and they'll be doing something, either exercising or, doing their artwork or whatever, and their pain gets worse. If it's getting worse and worse and worse, depending upon what it is, it's possible that you're making the injury more profound, and the pain will be telling.
Right.
Again, checking in with healthcare providers might be necessary if you have chronic pain syndromes, if you have different, chronic health issues, or, whatever. It's important.
It's important. It's connected. It's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Don't procrastinate, because if you do, you give yourself less time to do the work, which then increases stress levels. And then you'll have to do an all-nighter because you waited too long to finish an assignment. And that all-nighter that throws off your sleep patterns, and that affects your physical health and your mental health, which then just turns into a negative spiral.
Yeah. Every year or so, I'll do a 24-hour comic, and even when I'm doing that, I'm still taking breaks the whole time.
Yeah.
Because literally working that long, even with the breaks, at a certain point, I'm like, okay, this is very tricky.
Yeah. Do you ever get anyone, a student, or has anyone ever come back to you and has the word laziness come into conversation about taking care of oneself, taking breaks? Have people ever reacted with, well, I feel like I'm being lazy, or I feel like I'm not working, quote unquote, working hard enough.
And that's,
fucking hate that phrase. Pardon my language.
And again, that's why I'm saying taking a break requires a lot of disciplinary work in a way. So it's like, even if you think you're acting lazy, you're not. You're actually giving yourself enough discipline to be able to, instead of just work for 3 or 4 hours, you can work for 3 or 4 years, or 3 or 4 decades. Like that's, looking at the length, the aspect, that's a thing. And so that's usually my reply when people say that to me.
Right.
And also, when I've been hanging out with a number of different artists or cartoonists, every once in a while, some people will start like comparing their hands. A couple of them will say, look at these calluses. I have all these calluses. And essentially they'll be indicating that having calluses makes them a better artist. I'm also showing my students that they should keep their hands relaxed as they're drawing as much as they can, which will also prevent calluses and also help to reduce injury. So it's just really funny, because calluses won't make you a better artist. Like physical, visual, physical responses to chronic artwork and creation doesn't mean you're a better artist. It's just very funny to see that kind of thing, which I get personally entertained by. And of course, I let people know that getting the calluses, they don't need to do it. And, I told you how long and how often I draw, and I'm very lucky I don't have calluses because I'm working in a big way to like keep my hands from clenching styluses nearly as much. It's just kind of funky.
I sort of hate saying it this way because I feel like it's, I don't know, it's pretty self-involved, or I'm spinning it in sort of this like romantic way when it's not really, but I've come to realize as I age that working hard is a joke. It's a myth. I used to pride myself on being a hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
And now as I get older, I'm realizing that no, I want to work well. I just want to work well.
Yeah.
I don't want to put 110% into my work, put 110% in. No, I want to work 62% and get the result of 110%. Doesn't that make much more sense?
It does.
Wouldn't it make more sense to like do the thing you want to do, get the result you're looking for, make the money you want to make by working less, working well and effectively and healthily? Hell, I want to work 20%. If I'm being honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
I want 100% of the gain at 20% of the effort.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want. That to me is the goal, not 110% effort. That just runs us all into the ground. And somehow where we've all been conditioned and we've all been told, and I don't know, maybe this is a societal thing. I don't know. Maybe I don't even know what I'm talking about, but this is sort of the thing that like feels like it's the norm.
Yeah.
And it isn't.
Well, and you know, it's interesting because good work habits can also create efficiency. So you can actually be a more efficient worker when you are organizing things in a way that is going to let you work smoothly for an extended period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Efficiency means that it's going to be less of a burden.
Right.
So figuring out your like lifestyle with, you know, working practice is actually kind of like figuring out your posture and alignment for your body. But the lifestyle working practice is going to help you out for decades.
I know. It's like everyone agrees. Everyone listening to this is going to agree. Yeah, of course. This all makes sense. And yet we still don't do it. Like I know back in the day, I knew I needed to get up and take care of my eyes. I needed to look 20 feet. Did I do it? Not as much as I should have. Like we all know the rules. We all know what we should be doing. Why don't we?
We all have different, in terms of work, artistic styles, whatever, we all have different kind of cultural perspectives. And also just depending upon our personal histories, like we maybe, you know, maybe our parents taught us how to be too personally critical, or maybe our babysitters taught us, you know,
Italian, Catholic. So yes,
whatever it takes, you know. Also, like our mental health variations might also affect like how we work, but I'm not necessarily, I do promote self-care also as like a mental health practice, but that's not my area of expertise nearly as my area of physicality.
I would say that's my area of mental health is my area of expertise in experience, not in education.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I definitely know what I need to do to make sure that I'm mentally healthy. I know what has been done and what can lead to like severe depression. How depression affects me physically. I mean, I was at the height of my depression. I didn't eat for a month. I didn't get out of bed for a month. I lost 20 pounds in a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not physically healthy. And I definitely wasn't doing anything productive or creative. I mean,
that's tough.
It's all connected, man. It's all connected. This is a very sort of typical question, but I'm going to use it because I think it applies here. You know, hindsight 2020 and all. What would you have said to yourself when you were just starting out your creative career about what you and I have been talking about today? What would be like that one thing like, gosh, please do this. Hi, I'm from the future.
Right.
You need to do this right now.
Well, you know, this is an interesting question for me because, you know, I was a dancer for 30 years and when I was raised by, taking ballet classes or whatever, essentially the general rules were, you had to keep your alignment, but even if you were in pain, you just had to make everything look easy, no matter how hard it was.
Right.
I'd always drawn as a hobby, but I finally started making graphic medicine comics when I was in my mid or slightly later 40s. And certainly by then, because I'd had my career going in massage therapy and also as a dancer, I'd been injured a lot. It's like I immediately started to look at my work in comics just also as an athletic activity. And so also in the book, I suggest to people that they think of themselves as an athlete because let's face it, our bodies are the most important drawing mechanisms that we have. So,
yes, it is.
Yeah. So I really it's like essentially the moment I started taking drawing activities as something more than a hobby, I really just started looking at them again, from a physical perspective, because essentially dancers are professional athletes. I think artists should also think of themselves as athletes and work on their body's fitness so they can keep, making their work as well.
Their bodies are instruments of creativity.
Exactly. I don't know if there's technology that will let you draw just by thinking and not moving at all, but I don't think that happens.
I don't want to know. No,
Yeah.
don't speak that into existence. We
Yeah.
don't need that.
Yeah.
I would have said take better care of your, work out more.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I would have, because I didn't start working out until the only reason I started working out at all was to help my mental health. And that was in my early 40s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very early 40s.
Yeah.
Didn't do much of it between 22 and 40.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly any of it.
Yeah.
I would have said work out more.
Yeah.
Build that muscle. I would have said run more. I would have said take care of your skin better. I mean, I have so many sunspots and stuff now, and we're at this age where every time we go to the dermatologist, there's another beauty mark or mole or whatever that gets removed. They're like, oh, this doesn't look great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So kids listening to this, or not so kids, take care of yourself, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say to illustrators specifically, but any letter designers, graphic designers, anyone who's listening who does creative work, writers, what would you say to them directly? What would be one last piece of advice, one last piece of insight that you've gained over your many years of educating folks, of doing it yourself, of experiencing what you've experienced through massage therapy, through cartooning, through dancing, through everything that you've learned? What would be one piece of advice from you to them?
When I teach these workshops, one of the main suggestions I make is that regardless of whatever medium you work in, take a break. Figure out what kind of period you should take a break from. Taking breaks actually helps to treat injuries by letting them rest for a while and maybe heal. And it also helps to prevent injuries, and it will just help you feel a little bit better, and it's a point of discipline, and it's just good. And when you take a break, don't do physically what you're doing to break from. If you're sitting, go stand up. If you're standing, go sit down or lie down. It's like if you want to, just play some music that you love and dance to it. Just come up with some way to change physically what you're doing just for a few minutes. It might be able to change your life. I mean, if you want to get further into it, you can do some research. You can read my book or read some, get online and look at some other articles or whatever. It's all fine because it's really important.
To learn more about Kriota, visit kriotawelt.blogspot.com. If you find value in this podcast, you can support it by subscribing to my best-selling Substack. For $5 a month or $50 a year, you will access hundreds of articles on the art, practice, and history of illustration, unlock bonus podcast episodes called Extra Credit, and connect with other members of the ID community. Join me on Substack by visiting illustrationdept.substack.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.